Hey guys, welcome to the Do Good Podcast, and I am your host, Rob Watson, and today's episode is titled Your Health is Your Wealth. Now, it's self-explanatory, as you'd imagine, and I have something that I've really delved into and got really excited about the past so many years in terms of exploring ways of improving my own health and well-being, and really from the inside out. And it's been a really amazing journey for me, and I'm really kind of excited now to sort of be in a place now to wanting to share that more, to feel confident and open enough to pass on the things that I've got, with the aim of them potentially, helping others along the way. And even if it doesn't help that many people, it's something that I'm passionate about, and it's something I think if we've all got interests in life that we're passionate about, then it's great to be able to share it, and just to feel like, so what, why can't I share it? Because sometimes in my mind it says, well, you're not a doctor, or you're not a professional in this, or you're not. But I've got a lot of experience. We're all our own perfect case studies, aren't we? Especially if you've had some health challenges, which I'm going to talk about my own health challenges in a little bit, in a while. We've all, especially if we've endeavoured to sort of try and overcome them and to explore them and to go into some light little meandering paths, then there's plenty of wisdom and knowledge in there. So, and we've all got the right to share whatever it is. And if someone wants to listen to it, or wants to watch what we've got to say, or wants to read it, then it's amazing. And that's why I love having this podcast and having this platform to share these things that I'm interested in. And if others enjoy it, then and all the better. So one thing I've not really spoke about is, people who know me quite well will know that I'll be really sort of like into my health and well-being, and know that I live a pretty clean life. And I've made some big changes in my life, particularly the past 10 or so years, really changed tracks in a lot of ways. And I think that's what we're all capable of doing, and we do it every single day. Yet we've got the opportunity to make some more significant ones, and to go down in a different path that feels more harmonious, feels more expansive, feels more enjoyable for us. And for me, when I feel healthy and when I still feel strong and I feel fit, I'm able to enjoy life so much more. And it's from that place that I feel like I can do things like this, I can do other things that I'm interested in my life, and just makes things more enjoyable. Like if you go traveling, or you want to go on anything, it feels better to feel healthy, doesn't it? And it hasn't always been the case for me, and I've had some real challenges with my health. I spoke about it right early on. It's episode 13. Everyone's got a story to tell, where I share when I was 16, I found a lump in one of my testicles, and I was so racked with fear that I wasn't able to open up and face it and deal with it then. Because of where it was, I felt pretty embarrassed. I felt ashamed by it. I came really close once to telling my mum, but I just couldn't. I just felt like I just couldn't. Something was just holding me back. I was just so scared. Anyway, I didn't actually face that until I was 20 years later, when I was 36. I finally built up the courage to do something about it. Much earlier on, I was like, I was convinced that I had cancer and I was going to die, and anytime I'd have any aches or pains, I'd be like, shit, it's spread, this is going to happen to me. This is what the mind can do. It can take us to some pretty dark places. And what I found is, actually, if we face the truth, if we be brave and we go to our edges, that's where the freedom is. The freedom is on the other side of that fear, of that thing. And now I'm challenging myself more and more the past so many years to face up to them fears. Like, for instance, I have had fears of public speaking, or of doing this, or plenty of other things. And I'm like, well, the way to overcome it is to do it and to step into it. And it may not be comfortable, but I think that's where we've got to go in life. We've got to go to them uncomfortable places. So, well, anyway, I faced up to that uncomfortable side of me 20 years later, and I really delve into that in episode 13. So if you want to check that out, please do. And it talks about emotional health, mental health, well-being, and the challenges and issues that I've had in my life. And it felt great for me to actually share that and be vulnerable about it. And I had, after the back of that, I had some really lovely comments from people that got in touch with me and messaged me to say that it helped them. Just listening to it helped them, to help them realise that they're not alone as well, and they've had their own challenges in life. And the more of us that can speak up and talk about our things, then it's kind of as if we're, every time we do that, we're kind of holding our hand out for someone else, for them to sort of be supported as well. And I find as well other people come out to help me as well. So that term asking it is given, and the more that we can share, the more that we can collaborate, the more we can own our own stuff and our own story, the better our lives can be. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It's not easy. This life, this human experience is not easy. This earth school is really challenging. I think we're all getting our real masters here on a soul level, coming down here and doing this stuff and facing all our challenges. And in that case, we just need to, wherever we are, whatever phase in our lives we're at, is to give ourselves a pat on the back, because it's not easy. It's not easy. So anyway, more delving into this. So my own health and well-being has been the trigger for me to explore different tools, different techniques, really delve into it so I can feel better and stronger in myself, because that wasn't the case when I was younger. I was pretty healthy. I felt like I was a healthy child, got a few infections and stuff like the mumps and all them kind of things, ear infections and stuff like that, as a kid, but not generally. I'd feel like I was in a good place most of the time. Obviously, I found the lump when I was 16, and me not facing up to that has obviously kind of pushed things down. And I think when you don't face stuff emotionally, things can fire out as triggers in other ways and pop up in other symptoms. Well, when I was 19, I was away on a holiday. It's etched in my memory, this, because this is the first time I kind of had this health flare up that it's kind of stayed with me, and it's still even there now to an extent, nowhere near to the level it is because I have a great understanding and a knowledge of it. But it happened to me when I was 19, and I was away on a family holiday, and I just woke up one morning. I had a few drinks the night before, I had a couple of glasses of red wine and a few beers. Me and my cousin were sharing the room together, and I just woke up, and we had to get up quite early. We were going on some day trip, and I remember just feeling really groggy, and I was thinking, this must just be, the booze. But parts of my body were aching, and I remember going into the bathroom and just looking at myself in the mirror, and it looked like my light had been dimmed. I felt like bloated a bit. My face looked a bit different to me, and I looked tired, and then also I started to feel quite irritable, and my joints were hurting, and I just felt lousy. And I'm like, God, what was in that drink last night? God, that must have really doing something in it. So I kind of thought, well, I'm gonna, I'll feel all right in a few hours or a day or so. But the thing is, I didn't. Normally if you'd have a hangover or if you felt a little bit unwell, it was something that would pass and you'd kind of bounce back. Well, for me, I didn't really bounce back for the rest of the holiday. Really, I kind of felt in that state for a good week or two. And as the time went, the symptoms, the flare up kind of died down. My body wasn't hurting as much, and I didn't feel as anxious and irritable, and I have this just tension around my body, and I thought, and then it kind of died down, and we got home and I was feeling all right. And then a couple of weeks later, it happened again at another time, and I'm like, what is going on? And this time it lasted even longer. It lasted for 2 or 3 weeks, and I felt really rotten. In myself, because if you go from a place of feeling well and only knowing what it feels like to sort of have energy and to feel pretty good in yourself and to feel pretty energized, which most people can do around that age. Particularly for me, I was pretty active. I would play plenty of sports, tennis, football, always be out with my friends, exercising and just hanging around and doing stuff, to suddenly a point where I felt like my energy had just dropped right down, and I didn't really know what was going on, and also because I felt like it was affecting my appearance, and I was feeling bloated, I was feeling tired and all that. It was knocking my confidence on another level as well. So not only was I feeling it, but I felt like I was looking like that as well. And I think probably we can all relate to that. If someone doesn't feel too well, you can see it in them, can't you? Generally you can see it, and I thought this was the case for me. And I kind of remember at the time I went to the doctors, but I got I didn't really, because I was so young, I couldn't really explain what was going on other than just saying a few of these symptoms, and the doctor was like, well, here's some antibiotics. And to be fair, at one point they did help with the symptoms, but what I've come to realize is that if you use antibiotics quite a lot, they can really begin to affect your health. They can damage your gut, your microbiome, and they can get rid of all the good bacteria as well. And that can really cause some like effects. And I think because I felt like I was getting some relief from the symptoms from the antibiotics, I probably have quite a few courses of it. Again, probably doing a bit more longer damage. But this kind of way of feeling sort of just stayed with me all the way through my 20s. Now, I'll be honest, like around about 18, 19, I kind of began to experiment with drinking drugs quite a bit, particularly drugs. Go out and spend all weekend out. So there's no coincidence really that these health issues and symptoms that I just suddenly started to experience when I was 19 kind of happened a short while after me beginning to take drugs, going out and to raves all night and staying up all weekend and not sleeping much. I was obviously pushing my body to the extreme, and eventually my body had just kind of like had enough, and it kind of triggered into this state. Now, even though when it happened to me on a holiday, and particularly a place where you normally feel okay and feel the sun and the sand and the sea to make you feel good, in this case it wasn't for me. But it really knocked me. I remember feeling like crappy and lousy, like, why has it happened to me? I just want to be fit and healthy. I want to be able to go out and enjoy my life more. I want to be able to express myself more, and all the things that you want to do. Instead, it just like knocked my confidence in a big way. One thing was sure is that I was becoming very aware of, though, is I had to begin to like look after myself more and think, well, okay, I'm going to have to live a healthier lifestyle here. That's one that definitely transpired for me throughout my 20s. I really knocked on, stopped taking drugs, and pushing my body to the limit and that. And in a way, in hindsight, you can look back on stuff. At the time, you just want to be healthy, don't you? I want to be a fit and healthy 19, 20, 21-year-old who can be going out and enjoying themselves with girlfriends and friends and enjoying life. But I didn't really feel that was the case for me, because the way I was just feeling like I was just knocked for six. And for quite a few years, I was kind of angry. I was angry with myself for like taking the drugs. I felt like, it's because of the drugs. I've done something here to knock out my system, or I've caused myself some infections or immune conditions, and I'd either really like affected myself. And I didn't really feel like I was getting anywhere with the medical industry, going to see my doctor. It was either, in my 20s, the way I was feeling is either here's some antidepressants, or here's some beta blockers, or they give me these counts, say you got IBS and you got these things, but it never felt like I was really getting to the bottom of any of it. It felt like it was just, here you go, here's something to make you feel better for a little bit. And that's what them things did, and that's what I needed at the time. I think of it that way. But now, as you kind of become a little bit more aware and conscious, and you're on a certain path, you feel like you're ready to maybe feel more empowered and take some real action in our lives towards our health, because I felt like I wasn't ready for it back then. But anyway, one thing I did find out about what did help was the idea of detoxing. It felt like it was like as if I was getting a build-up of toxins in my body, and my body wasn't able to kick it out, whether that's through the drinking drugs or from however, So around about this time, I started to do some, whatever level of research I could do back then. I think the internet was pretty in its early days, but, typing stuff, and I started to look down maybe the alternative route away and thinking, because it didn't feel to me like being given prescription drugs, or that was really getting to help me at all. So I started to do some research, alternative medicines, and how people have kind of healed themselves through, diet and different approaches to that. And I came across the idea of detoxing. Now, that kind of resonated with me, because I felt like by living a cleaner life or cutting out stuff, that was the way towards better health. And that's what I was seeking more than anything. I was seeking to feel good again, to get myself into a place of optimal health. So I went to Boots and got this 5-day kit, and you drank this liquid, or you put it into this drink, and you drank it for 5 days throughout the day, and you cut out certain foods, and I felt better. I really did. I remember feeling a lot better by doing it, whether it's the placebo effect, or maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Although I would say that for me, I've known from my own experience that by doing detoxes, which I've done quite a bit, and I'll delve into them a little bit more, that I could begin to like alleviate the symptoms of what I was feeling. I could really die down. It didn't get them to go away, but it helped me to sort of manage the way I was feeling. So by taking it, by doing the detox, I didn't feel as bloated. My joints weren't hurting as much. I began to feel that detoxing was going to be kind of like the pathway for me to get an understanding of my, of my condition, of the way I was feeling, to alleviate the symptoms. So I remember in my late 20s, I came across a naturopath. Her name's Gaynor Jackson it was, and she's been a major help for me. I worked with her for about 4 or 5 years, and I think what really helped me, because like I said, I'd done some research. I'd researched into like alternative health and stuff, and I was seeing all these people who were like in the 50s and 60s and 70s who looked like in fantastic health. And I'm like, well, if anything, they're a great example for me. I'm gonna more likely listen to them than say someone from Western medicine who doesn't look particularly in great health, but is telling me how to live my life, and that taking this pill is going to make me feel better. Instead, I didn't really believe that, because I wasn't really seeing the results. But I was seeing other people who were curing themselves of chronic conditions, from changing their diet to detoxing to living a cleaner life, but they were having so much fun doing it as well, and really getting the zest for life back. And I'm like, yes, I want that. I want that zest for life back. I want to feel really alive again, or maybe I've never really felt alive, and it was just a pathway to me potentially to really understand the human potential for growth, for vitality, and to live a phenomenal life. And these people were doing it, and I came across one myself, and her name was Gaynor Jackson. She's a naturopath. She was based just outside of Manchester, and she was all about detoxing, and she actually was a raw vegan as well. She was in her 60s, and she was in phenomenal health. She looked great, she looked 20 years younger. So as I'm in front of her and I'm listening to her, I was an impressionable person back then, and I'm like, well, I'm going to listen to what she's got to say. I feel like I'm here at the right time for the right reason, and I'm going to kind of follow her approach. And she would give me some programs to follow. She'd tell me about what foods to cut out on my diet. And she was also big on detoxing, like doing juice cleanses and eating raw food, and also doing colonic irrigations. That was one of her specialist practices. And I began going down this sort of path with her to see, well, I felt like it was definitely something in my system, and if I could just sort of like help to cleanse my body and draw it out, then I could be in a lot stronger place. So I still remember having my first colonic irrigation. You're not going to really forget that one, are you? And I remember being pretty nervous before it. The thought of some woman sticking a tube up me was not exactly my most ideal way to part with £50. But I held strong, and I knew inside me that I was excited about it, and I knew that it was gonna help. It really did. And I remember how I felt afterwards. Like, I felt incredible. I felt really cleared out. You know what they say, like sometimes if you've, depending on the way you've eaten, because one of my symptoms that led to me wanting to do colonics was I'd get constipation pretty bad, and I'd maybe not go to the toilet for 3, 4, 5 days. And that was really tough to sort of feel like that. So working with Gaynor to help me with this, I remember having about 2 or 3 colonics in about a week, and that's what they recommend. If you've not done it before, go and have that. Now here you go, anyone listening to this, I'm not saying if you're constipated you should go and have a colonic. I'm saying what worked for me. Do your own research. Some people are pro them, some people are against them. For me at the time, it helped me. It really helped me. I felt so much lighter. I felt like I was so much more vital. I just felt like I'd really got rid of a load of toxins, because they can say you can even store maybe even like £10 of old waste inside you. Now £10, that's huge. So because I wasn't going to the toilet that often, and sorry guys if this is kind of putting you off, this isn't what you want to be listening today to, but anyway, I'm here to share the things that have gone on for me and the solutions, or the things that have helped me to overcome some of this stuff. But it did, and it pulled a lot of toxins out, and I felt lighter. I felt just like, I remember feeling great. I'd wake up in the morning and I was like, wow, I feel like I could like bounce out of bed a little bit. And it was around this time, working with Gaynor, she suggested getting some food allergy tests to find out if I was having a reaction to any foods. And it's shown up for me that I had an intolerance to milk and yeast. Now, the yeast one certainly made sense, because I was thinking about, if I drink alcohol, that would potentially like flare it up because the amount of yeast in that, and that could be affecting my gut. So I continued working with Gaynor for about 4 years, and she was a massive help for me, and I count her as one of the biggest influences. I mean, I think whenever we ask for help or guidance, and we really sort of like do our own research for stuff and go seeking for things, there can always be answers, and the answers can show up in different forms. In this case for me, at my time where I was back then, that's what I needed, and that's what was helping me. Another thing that I was doing back then as well, because like I said, I was really interested in detoxing because I wanted to cleanse my body. I felt like I had a lot to clear out. And I remember really getting into saunas. Well, to be honest, I'd always been into them a bit anyway. I remember I must have started taking saunas when I was about 18. And I remember there was an older lady in the sauna with me. It was just me and her. And we got chatting. And I was a pretty shy kid, so I don't really know why we even started chatting. But anyway, she started to like tell me the secrets of why she looked younger. And she put it down to doing saunas. She put a certain like oil onto her skin to sort of like help draw out toxins and stuff. And I remember, you have certain encounters in your life that sort of stick with you. Well, that was definitely one of them for me. Was this older lady who looked great, again like Gaynor. Those times stick with you. These kind of like, thanks for that. Thanks for that little wisdom bomb really at that time, and it's kind of stayed with me. So to this day, I'll still have maybe 2 saunas a week. Go in, and I've really built up my tolerance. So, I'm going for like 20-30 minutes on a pretty hot heat now, and I feel great after it. Once you've had a sauna, I tend to tie it in with just doing some exercise before it. I'll go for a run, and then I'll go off to the sauna, and I feel just like you feel brand new. That's how I can associate it with you. Feel brand new after it. A bit like when I do colonics, I just feel like I was cleansed, I was clear, I was kind of like rearing to go. So anyway, during about this time, the natural path Gaynor, she was raw vegan, so she'd been that way for ages. But I was sort of like eating the standard Western diet, which would be meat, fish, vegetables. But I'd eat a lot of processed food as well. At McDonald's, Burger King, Pizza Hut. That's just the way it was. Everyone else was doing it around me, so I kind of did that. But I was seeing her, and she was in her 60s. And she was a raw vegan, and she was living really well. It kind of made me step up and think. So when I was 33, I decided to go vegetarian. And I've been meditating for about a year, and I was watching a lot of documentaries, like Forks Over Knives and Food Inc. and Cowspiracy and a few other things. And I don't know, at that time, because I was reading them things, I was working with Gaynor, it didn't really sit with me that I wanted to eat meat. Didn't feel right for me, especially seeing how this raw vegan was living so well into her 60s. I figured, she was onto something here, and I wanted to get in on a secret. So as well as like cutting out meat and fish at the time, I really got into juicing. This was another kind of element for me in terms of my detoxing. I found it to be a great way to not only nourish my body, but it would also relieve some of the symptoms that I was feeling by me sort of like swapping out maybe a heavy meal in the morning and instead drinking like a large juice which would be packed full of nutrients and vegetables and fruits. It kind of felt at the time like it was a good way to set me up. Not only that, I'd started to get smoothies. I started to change up the equipment that we had in our kitchen. I went from, just having the toaster out to actually buying a juicer to buying a blender. It's actually funny, really. I remember buying the blender. We went to some, it was like design show, I think it was, or grand design show it was in Birmingham. And all around the side, they have all little different demonstrations. You had this guy who was giving these demonstrations about these Vitamix blenders and all the amazing things you could do with them, and he showed us how you could make these smoothies, you could make all these different sort of like yogurts and hummuses, but then also you can make your own soup with it. If you put it on for long enough, it actually heated up the soup. But because I was really fascinated about raw food and the benefits that Gaynor was showing with it, I was like, wow, I can get so much more raw food from these smoothies, from these soups. And after the demonstration, the guy it shared with everyone. He shared how much it cost, and it was something like £500. And at that point, just everyone else cleared. But something inside me was just like this light bulb was going off saying, go get it. So I just went straight over and I was like, I'll have one of them, please. Now, it might seem like that's quite an excessive addition to the kitchen in some ways. Yet this was 7 or 8 years ago, and it's still going strong, and I still use it potentially every day, so yeah, it was quite an investment, but when you work it out over that time, it turns out being like pence. And what else can you spend money on, £500 on, that you can just flit away? You know, I think of it as being one of the best investments that I've made, that along with my juicer. We've also got like a Magi Mix, which makes stuff, and I've bought other contraptions over time. This for me was all like exciting stuff. I'm like, wow, this can be the path to sort of like having greater health. And I felt like I was really onto something. So I began researching a lot more about like raw vegans, and I came across plenty of them online. But I was going down that path anyway, so I was aiming to eat like 50% raw each day, starting off with juices, smoothies in the day, salads, you know, eating fruit and stuff like that. And I was pretty much on it for a period of time where I was eating this way of being. I was gone vegetarian, so I cut out eating fish, and then I started to go even further, like with the juice cleanses. I started to do maybe not do full day juice cleanses, then I'd build that up to doing like every month a 2 or 3 day one, and then my longest one was actually 7 days while I was on a retreat in Austria. And then as this was sort of going, this was a period of time, this must have been like, you know, I was 35, 36, I then went from being veggie to being vegan. It must have been around about 2015, a transition to being like fully vegan again. You know, all these people online were like promoting it, and there was new documentaries out at that time, like Earthlings and other ones that just it was painting a picture to me like, this is the way to go. This is the right way for everyone. Now, little did I know that isn't the case, and it's not true, especially not true for me now. But back then, it was where I was at with my life, and it was what I needed, and it was helping me to sort of, it was a good cleanse. It was definitely a great phase of my life, as being like a really good cleanse for me to be veggie and then to be vegan and to be doing all this juicing and these fasting. And one thing with the juicing, I remember going on this retreat in Austria, and we did like 9 days of yoga, we did 7 days of juicing, we were having massages, we were having colonics, we even did this pretty intense liver flush towards the end of it. It was pretty full on, but I remember feeling like, wow, I felt phenomenal. So going right the way back to when I was in my early 20s and doing that first little juice cleanse, that first little cleanse from that little kit from Boots, had led me 15 years later or so to be going to nice places around the world, Bali, Hawaii and Austria, like going on these retreats and these healthy living retreats. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And this is where it comes to the point where you can be grateful for your challenges in your life. You can look back and go, well, you know what, if I didn't kind of get unwell for that period of time, if it wasn't like that, it wouldn't have propelled me into this direction. And I was suddenly getting all this information, and I was like, wow, this is so empowering. I'm taking, like, the future of my health is in my hands. I don't have to feel like I am sort of like a victim, or there's nothing I can do about it and I just have to live with it and it's just a chronic condition for life. It was like, no, I can overcome this and I can begin to feel better. And there's nothing more empowering for me than to be feeling like I'm the one in control here. I'm the one who can really transform my health and well-being. Sure, we're going to be guided and supported, like, say, you know, Gainer was helping me and all these other people online. But I was taking a real interest in it and really absorbing so much information in podcasts and books and YouTubers who were really kind of smashing it from the health scene. And I just got really excited about it. I was like, wow, this is going to make me feel better. And I really did. I really had spells of feeling a lot better. And you know, I went, like I say, I was veggie, then vegan, because I know at the moment veganism is a really big movement, and it's really getting pushed. Particularly, there's some new documentaries out now. I think it's called Game Changers documentary, which is all over everywhere. And well, anyway, I found after a while of being vegan that it wasn't suiting me. I was beginning to get even more gut issues. From, you know, instead of it being like constipation, it tends to be diarrhea, terrible gas. I was beginning to develop like rashes on my legs. I was getting infections in my toes, and I was like, and the frustrating thing was, I'm like, well, I'm doing all this stuff. I'm vegan and I'm following what all these other people are doing and doing cleansing. Yet something wasn't quite working for me. I was like, whether it was like I was stripping all the goodness out as well doing the detox, and I don't know, but I do believe that living like a high carb vegan diet, in fact, it wasn't doing me good. It was actually making, in some ways, my health going down further. And it wasn't until I began to work with a different lady, a herbalist called Kitty Campion, who was based down in Oxford, and she'd worked in the health field for like 30-40 years, and she was a real big proponent of the vegan lifestyle, and she'd even was it for 20 years herself. And then she started to sort of delve further into the data and the research and seeing that actually veganism is an experiment. It really is an experiment, and we just have to be careful with it. And I just got into my head that this is the way we should all eat. It's better for the planet, it's better for the animals, it's better for our health. But it was turning out that it wasn't better for my health. But the thing is, when I was vegan, I was doing my best to convince every Tom, Dick and Harry that this was the ticket to good health. And I've come to sort of, I wouldn't necessarily regret that, but like anything, you become quite ideological, can't it? And that's the issue. And that's some of the stuff that I don't like about veganism now, or even if it's a particular other way of eating, it becomes like us against them. This is the way it should be. And that's where it sort of stems from the ego, hey? Because we want to feel like what we're doing is right and it's right for us, when in fact, there's other ways of doing it. And that's what I've come to learn more than anything, that there's no one size fits all. Some people can thrive being vegan, others can't. Some people need to be more of an omnivore diet when they're eating meat and fish, and then others, I'm seeing how certain people can thrive as being carnivores, which is like, to the other extreme. So that's why I think we have to be careful about information and even documentaries as well, because I really got sort of like, I'd say brainwashed in as well by Cowspiracy, Earthlings, Forks Over Knives. And now there's the new one, the Game Changers, which again, and what you realise, when you start to buy into that beliefs a little bit, you kind of just like, you don't have a critical eye as much, and you just go along with it because it's what you want. You want your beliefs to be confirmed. And that can be the case with these documentaries. They do become quite biased towards it, and the data that they show can be a bit swayed. And actually, when you follow the money tree a little bit on stuff, like for instance, the people who were behind Game Changers, a lot of them have all like set up these in the vegan industry, developing products and stuff like that. So they've got a vested interest in people going more vegan. And there's certain things I'm questioning it. And anyway, so I'd just say, whatever you take from it, do some more of your own research. Don't get me wrong, 100% I think we should be eating more fruits and vegetables, but eating the right sources of them, But what I was finding, I'd been on this health kick and this journey for me for so long, and I remember getting to when I was about 37, and all of a sudden it felt like, I was like, I'm vegan now, why is my health kind of like gone back down a bit? And it wasn't paying off, and what I found a little bit from people going through like the vegan whole food diet is that you can get a bounce at the beginning, and it can last a while. But what I found is I ended up doing some more tests, and that's what I'd probably say. If I was to go back and I was to do it again, I would have got some blood tests done before I went vegan, and I would have been checking on it maybe 6 months in, 12 months in. Instead, I was just watching these documentaries, and I was just believing that this is the way to go, and I should eat this, and I'll get everything I need from fruits and vegetables. But it wasn't the case for me. I ended up doing some blood work, and it showed that I was deficient in B12 and some other vital minerals. So there in front of me, I was doing everything. I thought I was doing everything, I was juicing, I was taking smoothies and salads and all this sort of stuff. Yet it was showing that it wasn't enough for me. And I then began coming across people who had been vegan and then had transitioned back to eating meat and fish, and how it was then beginning to help them rebalance certain minerals and vitamins in the body, and begin to help them overcome certain conditions. And in some ways, following a vegan lifestyle was potentially triggering some other conditions. Now, this isn't the case for everyone. I know people who can be thriving on it, and some people are doing it phenomenal. So I'm not here to say it doesn't work. I'm just saying it doesn't work for everyone. It didn't work for me. I found that now having like bone broth and collagen. And so when I was 37, I decided that I would reintroduce meat and fish into my diet. Now, it wasn't easy. I remember being so kind of like wrapped up in the identity of being vegan. It kind of become part of me and who I was and what I was, I think, and in a way, it's really beneficial at times for us to break down them ways of being, what we attach ourselves to, what our identity is. So I ended up having meat and fish again. I remember having fish again for the first time. But one thing, I would say, the animals, that the way they are raised and stuff, we have to start treating them better. I am 100% against factory farming. I do not think, these are sentient beings, and if we're going to be consuming them, then I want to do it in the best possible way. So from being vegan and from all the research, I'm like, okay, but before, when I was young and I just eat meat and fish, I wasn't really bothered, go to McDonald's or go wherever, and the quality of it would be, it's going to be pretty low, really. The animals are not going to be treated well. That's just a money-making machine, them outfits. So I was like, well, I'm going to do some more research and think, well, where can I get it from? Where can I get it locally? Where can I get it so it's wild, it's free range, it's organic? So that's one of the great things about when I was vegan, is that I'd really now begin to do my own research, because it was tough. It was tough getting meat and fish again. And I remember having fish again. We had some salmon, and I remember cooking it. But I remember being really grateful for it. I'm like, you know what? I'm really grateful for this. I remember having the first mouthful, and literally my body, as I had it, my body was singing to me. It was literally singing to me like, thank God you've had some of this. I could still remember the taste and how good it was. And literally my body was kind of like, it felt like it was like charged and like vibrating a little bit, which sounds a bit crazy, but I was just getting that feeling inside that, I need to start having this again in my diet. Something was missing from me at the time. And so it wasn't easy, because I remember like having doubts about it, but I was seeing the benefits of it. And what happened to me a few months after I started to eat meat and fish again, like I had one of the symptoms that started to like come on quite heavily when I was being vegan was like I'd have these rashes on me, I'd get fungal infections on my nails, and I lost both my toenails playing tennis one time, but they never grew back. And then I developed infection with them. Well, soon after, a very short while after I started to eat meat and fish again, one of the nails grew back. So this was kind of a sign for me that there was obviously something lacking in my diet. And what I've become to realise as well is the way that we farm our lands now in agriculture, the way we have degraded our soil, the fruits and vegetables that we're eating today have got 50% less nutrients in than what they had, say, 50 years ago, because we've degraded the health and the soil so much. So that was probably playing a part. And even though I was doing my best to eat organic, even that, you can eat organic, which doesn't mean there's no pesticides, herbicides and stuff, but if the soil's not in a great shape, and that's where the real nutrients come from, is by having good soil, then it's not going to transfer well into the vegetables. They may look like the same, organic might look the same as non-organic when you're looking at it, but actually when you get into it, or you really want to like repair soil health, then. So anyway, it's around about this time that I was doing more investigation into my health. I was definitely feeling a lot of benefits over time, but it wasn't a straight arrow. It wasn't like it was just a continuous thing. I was going through spells of feeling a lot better, and then it would just crash again. And I felt like I was in that phase of crashing again towards the end of like being a vegan and then moving back to eat meat and fish. And as I was doing these investigations with this this herbalist Kitty, she was showing me how I'd had Candida Overgrowth, which is an issue in the gut, bacterial issue, and what can really feed that is sugar. So what I was finding, what it seems to be as well, I was basically a vegan sugar junkie. I was eating a very high carb vegan diet and thinking like, oh, this is just the way to live. This is what's right for me. But in fact, the high sugar content was particularly damaging to my health. That's why you can probably end up like having fungal infections, and you can have gut issues and diarrhea and gas and all them things and bloating because of the sugar. And that's what it seemed to be the case for me. So I ended up following this Anti-Candida Diet. I tried it for like 30 to 60 days, began really drastically reducing the amount of sugars that I'd be having in my diet. So all refined sugar was gone. That stuff is poison. And also I cut out a lot of starchy vegetables as well, like potatoes, and anyone who knew me back then knew that I loved chips. I'd always want to, I was vegan, but it's okay, I can have chips and stuff like that. But so I had to say goodbye to it. And also and also something else that I was saying goodbye to was anything containing gluten. So I was beginning to sort of get this extra knowledge in me about the effects of sugar that can have on me, the effect on gluten can have on my health. So I did this for a good month, and I noticed benefits from it. Now, I'd noticed benefits from a lot of stuff in the past, so you've got to be careful whether it is a placebo effect, whether it is you're getting a bit of a bounce of it. It's whether it continues to last. But one thing I've definitely noticed to last for me is by me reducing my sugar intake, a lot of the symptoms that I can feel can kind of fade away. Started to realise, eating meat and fish again I was seeing a benefit from him. Cutting out some gluten and grains and reducing my sugar content was helping to balance out my gut bacteria again. But what I've become aware of, and here's the thing though, even though like I would be all in on detoxes and cleanses and stuff, and I'd see how it was a benefit to reduce my symptoms, what became apparent to me is that I was not getting to the root cause. These things were helping me to alleviate symptoms. All the stuff in the end, that's what I've become to realise, that all the things, the colonics, the juicing and stuff, even though they can be great for maintenance of health, they weren't getting actually to the root cause of stuff. So I began to delve a little bit deeper into all this. And I was still experiencing the symptoms were still there. The underlying ones, the bloating, the digestive issues. I was having poor sleep, tension, headaches, fatigue, brain fog, tinnitus, lower back pain, rashes, and infections, and these kind of things were still sort of staying there. So I was like, you know what, where to next? Anyone who's listened to my previous episode with Dr. Sarah Davies, who's a functional medicine practitioner, well, that's where I ended up going. I ended up seeing her about 1.5 years ago. And that's the great thing about functional medicine. Those who've listened to it, it helps to get to the root cause of stuff. But because I'd become so frustrated initially in my early 20s of the NHS and how I felt I was getting treated, I didn't want to, I kind of like discarded that, and I pendulumed right the other way to alternative medicine. And even though I was seeing benefits, and I think there's great stuff and information in there really is, what had really resonated with me as I was kind of like thinking, well, okay, if I really want to get to the root cause stuff, I'm going to have to have something which is really going to delve into the science of it. And working with Dr. Sarah has really helped me to do that. Even though I'd done some tests in the past, like some blood tests, and found out a few things about vitamins, nutrients, deficiencies and stuff like that, working with Sarah, I felt like I'd be able to get to a much deeper level of stuff. Around this time, I think it was around 2017, my wife had found out she had an autoimmune condition. And she kind of left no stone unturned in finding the right diet and supplements to support her to feel better. And she began working with a functional medicine doctor called Dr. Chatterjee. Like some of you might know him from this show on BBC called Doctor in the House, where he basically goes and lives with patients and he helps them to transform their health. Well, back then, Ruth got the answers that she was looking for, and this made me sit up and take notice. It also started to, in a way, rebuild my trust with doctors again in general. Even though Dr. Chatterjee was an NHS doctor, he was helping his patients basically through lifestyle changes, and this was something that was completely alien to me because not in all my time of younger had any doctor really given me any advice on diet or nutrition or anything. It was kind of very much like, here's a symptom and here's how we're going to treat it. So this is when I decided to find a doctor who could work with, and this is where I came across Dr. Sarah, who, she's on my previous episode in 32, episode 32, if you want to delve into this. And what this gave me was someone with the understanding of how the body works in medicine, but also someone who delves deeper to find the root causes of the issues. So at the end of 2018, I began to work with Sarah. So I started to do a bunch of lab tests to start off with. That can be a bit of the process. Rather you just go along, like we go to our normal doctors, we've got 10-15 minutes with them, and we say what's wrong with them, and they just give us something. She builds up this whole big picture, this snapshot of your health. So I ended up doing a heavy metal test, which was a hair analysis. I did some blood work to check my thyroid and how my antibody levels were. I also did this urine test, which like a comprehensive metabolic snapshot of my overall health. So with these tests, I could have a better understanding of what was really going on and get and put the right course of action in place. So what did the test show up? This was, it's also often when we go for tests, you can either be put up doing tests because you're scared of the results. But because I kind of faced up to some of my own stuff in the past, like the lump I had and other issues, and being like, you know what, it's better to know, isn't it? I'd rather know what's wrong with me so I can treat it rather than just be guessing game, or just save myself a lot of pain and struggle and stuff. So what the test show up? Well, the urine test confirmed that I'd had like a yeast and bacteria issues that needed resolving. The hair analysis was showing up that I had a certain level of mercury toxicity in my body. And then the thyroid test highlighted that I had an autoimmune condition called Hashimoto's hypothyroidism, which is a condition where your immune system begins to attack your thyroid gland. So with all this information, I was beginning to sort of fill in the blanks for me and helping me get like a greater understanding of what was going on in my body. Having all this information in hand and being able to work with someone like Sarah felt like I could sort of be supported and like guided along the way towards optimum health. But I'll quickly take you through some of the steps that I've done while I've been with Sarah. She identified what supplements I should start taking. Alongside this, I was going to follow a strict autoimmune protocol diet, which basically meant cut out all grains, dairy, eggs, nuts, and nightshade vegetables. It's tricky at first to get my head around, but I got myself a really good cookbook, which was actually one of Ruth's, and I began to sort of make hay in the kitchen with all these new creations. And I've got to say, this is one of the most rewarding parts of the process. Being able to learn to cook, really learn to cook. I've loved every minute of it, and it feels really empowering to be able to cook healthy food for me and for people around me. It feels good to break bread with people and to do it, like to make healthy alternatives of certain things. So I followed this strict autoimmune protocol for 30 days. And then after that, your aim is to reintroduce food one at a time to see how the body reacts. So following the 30 days, I believe it does take commitment. It takes commitment to cut those certain things out of your diet, because a lot of them things are your comfort foods, or you're that used to them. So you're kind of retraining your brain. But when you start to see the benefits of it, then it can be great. And what I've come to realise by doing these changes in my diet is that for me, 100%, is that grains are not great for me. So cutting out all grains has been really beneficial to my diet. I've noticed that certain symptoms that I've experienced have pretty much gone altogether. And I'd say mainly from that, it would be the grain, but it would also be like the sugar content in there as well. So I've been slowly refining my diet over the past sort of 15, 18 months, eating more like a low-carb paleo diet. And that's what appears to be suiting me right now. And here's the thing is, I spent 4 years as a vegetarian, then vegan, and then recently I've going back to eating meat and fish, but refining it further to cutting out grains and other elements of it and stuff. But that isn't to say, who knows what it might evolve to in the future. So I don't want to sit here and say, you know what, paleo diet is perfect and that's what I'll always be. I think it's important never to say never, because you just don't know what might change or where you might be in your life. Who knows, at some point in the future, maybe a vegan diet might suit me again because of the knowledge and the wisdom that I have now, and I won't be like, it won't be a high carb one. But I know for me where I'm at now is that eating meat and fish again is helping me. Particularly what I'm finding is having, say, bone broth and also like collagen powder can be really good for all your joints. And I've found that for me, particularly from exercising, to help to repair like the tissues and the ligaments around our joints. Like collagen's amazing for that. Bone broth again can really help to replenish like really high nutrients. And interesting that like the second most nutrient dense food in the world is beef liver. Now, as I said before about vegetables not having less nutrients in them than they used to, it makes sense for me to be having more organ meats, to be eating like kidneys, to be eating liver, and to be getting the nutrients that way. And you can hide it in your food and finding that you can make burgers and you can sort of like grate in loads of beef liver and you don't really notice the difference, and you're just getting really packed full real goodness. I remember my mum feeding me liver when I was a kid and I bloody used to hate it, like liver and onions or liver and whatever, and I almost felt like I was getting force fed it. But little did I know how good it is actually for your health. So what I've been finding now anyway, like I kind of real flip from being vegan now to eating meat and fish, but I've done a lot of research and I kind of feel like what's been suiting me now and where the data's telling me and where I'm being guided is that following more like ancestral way of eating, it seems to be very beneficial for my health and well-being. We've evolved over thousands and thousands and thousands of years. It's only in the past few hundred years that we've eaten a certain way, which is high processed food, refined sugars and oils. It's playing havoc in our system, and we're not really eating in alignment with nature and with seasons. We kind of like eat whatever we want, and it may seem like it's great and we might be comfort food, but I think it's pretty fair to say that the Western way of eating is disastrous. And this isn't to say that we shouldn't treat ourselves to a pizza now and again, or we shouldn't have this and we shouldn't have that. But if we're doing that a lot of the time, and for me personally, I feel rubbish if I'm doing that, and I will actually I'll relax a little bit more now in certain times. I'll go and eat Chinese, or I'll go and have this occasionally. But when I'm at home, and what I'll be doing 90% of the time is I'll be following this sort of primal way of eating, this paleo sort of even keto style of diet, which is, eating low carb. And that's what I'm finding is helping me. It's particularly helping to heal my gut because I'm not getting so many sugars in there. I don't have the food cravings, the sugar cravings as much as I do, which is really good to not feel like you're constantly hungry, you're constantly wanting to snack all the time. That's what I find when I was vegan. I'd be snacking all day, every day, because I was basically just consuming carbs all the time, and you burn through it pretty quickly and you just want more of it. But fortunately for me and you, there's so much information now online. I think the more of us that can be talking about this, can be sharing about the stuff, we can begin to get back to our roots, and we can tap back into that way of being, eating more nutrient-dense food, saying no to large-scale agriculture and going eating more local and supporting farmers markets. And the answers are out there, and it's exciting out there as well because there's so many people who are like pushing for this and coming together. So before I finish off, I just wanted to share a few things that I found that have really kind of been like helped me, and I think they can generally help a lot of people. So one is organic. It's to possibly eat organic where possible. I know it's more expensive and some of you may have tighter budgets, but if you can divert a few extra pounds towards that, then not only are you taking steps towards a healthier living, but you're also supporting organic practices and you're casting a vote basically towards better farming. I see it as an investment in my future, and it also tastes better as well, in my opinion. And on the price point, there are places like Aldi that do have small ranges of organic food that you can go in and nip and get stuff, say like eggs and broccoli and carrots and onions and potatoes. And I found the absolute cheapest coconut oil in there must be like £1.50 a jar. Other places you're looking at like £5, £6, £7. So it is possible, and I would prefer to be able to go and buy all my food from somewhere like Unicorn Groceries, the people who I had on my podcast episode 16, and be able to always have my meat from the local farm shop. But sometimes it's just not possible, and you want to be a bit more convenient. But I do believe if we shop around and we eat and we make the right food, then we can still bring our shopping bill down, but we can eat organic and eat really good food. And personally, I'd rather spend less on other things in my life to eat well at home. Like for instance, the price, what's it cost to go out and have a meal? What you're looking at for 2 courses, 3 courses, 15, 20, 25 pounds, that's what you can spend. Like that can cover for me 2 or 3 days worth of food at home, and that's like 2 or 3 organic meals each day during that time. Okay, also intermittent fasting is something I want to share. I've been following this for a while now, and it's an eating pattern that cycles between periods of fasting and eating. It ties back to the ancestral way of eating that I was talking about. We haven't evolved to eat 3 or even 4 meals a day, morning, noon and night. For millennium, as hunter-gatherers, would sometimes go days without eating food, for periods of time. As there wasn't supermarkets on every corner and this abundance of stuff. It might feel like we've got an abundance of everything, but what is that abundance? Is that abundance nourishing? Is that abundance beneficial for us? But anyway, onto intermittent fasting. There's something in giving the body a rest by fasting. Many studies show that it can have powerful effects on our body and our brains, and it may help us to live longer. A popular method is the 16-8 approach, which involves skipping breakfast and restricting your daily eating to a period of 8 hours, such as say, from 12 to 8 o'clock or from 10 to 6 o'clock. Then you're basically fasting for 16 hours in between. I probably do something more like a 14-10 approach, where I'm fasting for 14 hours a day, eating normally around 11 a.m. and then kind of finishing around 9 p.m. at night. And when you fast, your human growth hormone levels go up and insulin levels go down. So your body's cells also change the expression of genes, initiate important cellular repair processes. And it's also a very effective way to lose weight and to sort of get rid of belly fat from people. So it's becoming very popular, intermittent fasting. I'm going to touch on exercise. Obviously, everyone says you should do exercise, but what I've found that helps me is to build exercise into your daily routines. Because let's be honest, if you've been working at the end of the day, it's not as easy, or I don't think you're going to maintain it as much. You might do in January and February because you're going to hit the gym hard, but unless you're really committed, are you going to feel like going to the gym after work for 60 minutes and all that? You might do, but are you? But I think, for instance, we can make there's some simple strength exercises, there's some simple ways that we can do to introduce into our day. So for instance, if you're in the kitchen and preparing some food, you could do some little strength exercises. I know Dr. Chatterjee, who I mentioned before, has a good little set of 5 things that you can do, like push-ups and a few different things, and squats that you could do in the kitchen. Or you could have a skipping rope on hand. That's something that we've got in the kitchen. Just have it on the side, kind of keep it on show, because if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. If you have it there, and then maybe while the broccoli's boiling, you could do 100 skips or more. We also have a mini trampoline, which is more commonly known as a rebounder. And this can be a great tool to get a few minutes of exercise in, even while the kettle is boiling. Between them things, how can you in your day introduce 2 minutes, 3 minutes of exercise that can end up building up to say 15, 20, 30 minutes a day? Now, clean water. Now, this is, I think, something that maybe we're not all aware of, but once I became aware of it, I really became to think, well, what can I do about this? And this solution is simple. Our tap water and shower water, can be known to have all sorts of nasties in it. I won't go into detail about what they are, but if you want, do some of your own research and see that some of the chemicals that can be found in there. So what we've done it to sort of combat tap water, we fitted a reverse osmosis water system in our kitchen. So all our drinking water now, all our water that we sort of like use to cook food with, we use this reverse osmosis kit. And this removes all the toxins, meaning that we've got this really great clean filtered water. For me, becoming aware that I've got some mercury toxicity in my body or heavy metals, like I don't want to be putting more of it in. I want to make sure that as I'm cleaning my system out and becoming healthier, that I'm able to continue to put good stuff in. So the reverse osmosis has been like a brilliant, and I never need to buy water again when I'm out. We've got refillable water bottles on hand, so we can just fill up and then go out. So that's saving us money, but it's also saving, like, don't have to use a lot of plastic. And then something else we do with our water is we fitted filters to our shower heads, which helps to remove, heavy metals, chlorine, bacteria, pesticides, rust and other bits, which makes a real difference. And I'll be honest, I really did feel a difference. I think often you can get a bit of a sulphur smell from showers, particularly if it's like, you're having a hot one. And you can almost feel a little bit, I was feeling like a little bit like dazed a bit sometimes after, and you think it was just the steam, but it isn't. It's actually the sulphur and some of the chemicals in there. So now I can have a hot shower without having any issues by having these filters on. And the great thing with these things is once you get them set up, all you have to do is think about maybe changing the filters once a year. But now I'm getting clean. I can drink clean water and I can clean myself in clean water. And then that brings me on to clean air. Another simple thing that we can do in our home is to have more air purifiers. The obvious one is to bring the outside indoors fill our home with houseplants. Good health depends on more than just diet and exercise. Without a doubt, our environment affects our health too, and the right houseplant can actually make a big difference in our mood, our stress levels, improve our sleep quality, and even our breathing. A nice looking plant is great, but a nice looking plant that quietly works its magic in the background is even better for us, So there's plenty of great research online that you can check out here for sort of like houseplants, but having them in there helps to purify the air. And another winner is something that we've got in our bedroom is an air purifier. And we just leave it on. These systems are great for absorbing bacteria, and they can help for people who've got any allergies and stuff. So we have one, like I say, in our bedroom, and we've got some plants in there. We've got plants through the rest of the home, and it's just creating that healthy environment, clean water, clean air. Unfortunately, our world is pretty toxic. Just look around, look at the car fumes, look at the way we're treating the world, look at the air quality. So if we can improve what we can in our own home and in our space, then it's gonna be a good one. And then this last one I'm just gonna drop in, which everyone can do. It's as easy and it's cheap and it costs nothing. It's called grounding, and it's free for us all. And in another world, it's called earthing. It's basically a therapeutic technique that involves doing activities that ground or electrically reconnect us to the earth. Some most recent scientific research has explored grounding have real benefits on like reducing inflammation, improving cardiovascular disease, helping with muscle damage, chronic pain and mood. So there's different types of actually grounding, like walking barefoot. if you've got a little bit of a garden space, even in the cold, you take your shoes off, go and ground for a little bit. Almost like helps to just like shake off the day a bit. You can even lie on the ground. This is something that I love to do as spring starts to get into springtime, just to lie on the grass and just to feel the beautiful green grass underneath me, but also know that I'm reconnecting to the earth and I'm helping to sort of like decharge myself. And also an amazing one is submersing yourself in water. I think it's more powerful than any of the other ones because water is conductive and it's just connecting you straight to the ground. It's so refreshing and incredible, but you're actually getting the real benefits of it. And then also you can use grounding equipment. I've actually got a grounding bed sheet and I've got a grounding mouse mat. You can actually use them, so you can basically be sleeping at night, but you can also be grounded and connected to the earth. So it's a great thing. But anyway, I could go on and on about these little tools and different techniques, and I actually quite enjoyed sharing some of them at the end. And I could say loads even more, but I'm going to leave it here today. But what I've come to realise that, wherever you are on your health journey, and it's something I've been exploring for 20 years, there's no magic bullet to fix it. I've just shared my journey and the things that I've done, but not one diet is right for anyone. We all need to do our own self-inquiry and find out what's best for us. And that's what it is. It is a journey. It takes time, and we might all want the answers right now, but sometimes that's part of the experience, is to sort of go on that journey, and the process is the point, and the journey really is the destination. But anyway, that's where I'm at now, and it's a fun journey, and who knows where it's going to take me. But I feel I'm in a place now to sort of like talk about it a little bit more and share some of the wisdom that I have sort of absorbed and the knowledge, and share it with others, just like those have been sharing it with me. I feel this is my opportunity now to sort of share that again and see if it can help other people. But I love learning about all this stuff. I'm really excited, about exploring the potential limits of what is humanly possible, because I believe we're just scratching the surface of what is, and we can make this life far more enjoyable if we're feeling strong and feeling healthy. Well, anyway, that's me rambling on for quite some time. But anyway, I appreciate you listening to me. If you've enjoyed this, please share it with a friend. If you're listening to it on YouTube, which is now what I'm putting them all out on, subscribe to that channel so you'll never miss an episode. If you listen to it on Apple Podcasts, please leave me a review. It'll go a long way. So anyway, guys, until next time, have a good one.